That's got to be the best pirate I've ever seen.
So it would seem.
Enough said. But in all seriousness, welcome back to another episode of Raunchy Reviews. And yes, in this one, we are again returning to the Pirates of the Caribbean trilogy. This is going to be the final Pirates of the Caribbean movie that we're going to be doing, at least for the time being, just because we want to move on and do some more reviews.
Yeah, do some other things. 3 months of Pirates isn't the best.
So in this one, we are going to be covering Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End. And if you're wondering, here is the DVD case. So yeah. Here's our new review set. I hope you dig it. We're still working on it a little bit. We gotta get some new chairs because I accidentally positioned it higher up than it needs to be. It should be lower. But with all that being said, let's jump into this review. So the first character that we wanted to go over was James Norrington. He does return in this one, and his status is restored. So at the end of the last movie, he gave Davy Jones' heart to Lord Beckett, which technically gave Lord Beckett control of the sea. And that restored his status as, what was he? A Commodore?
Commodore Norrington, yeah.
But even though that he regained his status, he still felt something was missing, and he clearly still loved Elizabeth. This kind of leads into my next thing that I wanted to talk about, which his kind of self-sacrifice moment. I didn't feel it too much, honestly. Yeah, he kind of dies like he dies like a bitch in this movie, guys. Good on Bootstrap Bill. Comes in clutch, just stabs the crap out of him. I figured James Norrington was gonna go in there, balls to the wall, just slashing things up.
Right.
Nah. Just gets stabbed and is done for.
I mean, he went out cool though. He could, no. He went out, he didn't, at least he didn't.
There's no good way to spin this.
At least he didn't agree to serve on the Flying Dutchman for the rest of however many years.
You know what? I'll give that to you. Yeah, he didn't do that, and also he did.
Yeah, he just died.
He did at least get the prisoners off Davy Jones's ship.
And he got to kiss.
And yeah, dude, he scored a kiss with Elizabeth, which apparently she's just a kiss magnet, man. Everyone just be kissing her.
In this one, Jack has gone a little bit crazy off the edge. From the first scene that we see Jack, he's visibly more crazy than in the last ones.
Yeah.
He's talking to like at least 7 others of himself, which I don't know. I thought it was a really funny scene when you see him just trapped on a desert and licks a rock and.
I like the line.
My peanut.
Just like kills like 2 of himself. One of him lays an egg.
Right?
Besides, him clearly going mad and talking to multiple of himself. I don't know, when he gets back, he definitely seems a lot more normal, but you see in a later scene that he also talks to himself again. And he also has the 2 little people that show up right here, which are, that's just kind of funny. Another bigger part about him is when he talks about like the world how the world isn't shrinking.
The world's still the same. It's just less in it.
That's a really good line from him, I feel.
Yeah, and I think what he means by that is that there's so many people just conforming to the normal stuff in society that, there are like dwindling numbers of more interesting people and fantastical things because of that. Mm-hmm. Which I thought that was really well said.
Yeah. Later in this movie, it seems like Jack actually has grown to care for Will and Elizabeth a lot more, and especially respect Elizabeth, like in the scene where she becomes king. And
Yeah.
he actually votes for her, which has been unheard of for the however many pirate captains there have been.
Right. So the next character that gets a little bit more play in this movie is Davy Jones. He doesn't get many scenes to himself. We do get, I guess, a little bit more of a feel of his character, considering that we find out his love interest and whatnot, and what kind
In a
of...
bucket.
we then kind of get to see what kind of brought him to the state that he's in right now, you know, being all tentacly and all that. So I thought that was really cool, but for the most part, because his heart is controlled by Lord Beckett, I feel like he's just kind of a pussy in this movie, just because all he has to do is just like follow orders, because if he won't, he'll just get killed.
Yeah, he was pretty badass in the last movie, and
Right?
then it took a turn for this one, and it was pretty much immediate. Like, you see the one scene where he destroys like a whole fleet of ships, and then that's pretty much it.
Well, it's not even that, because he was, at that point,
Yeah,
he was
still
under Lord
under
Beckett.
them, but we didn't know. It was still a cool scene.
Yeah. Another character that I wanted to go over really quickly, just because he doesn't have a lot of play in this movie, is Bootstrap Bill. I loved how his character from his introduction in the second movie to this movie is now he's just kind of like growing and like meshing into the ship. And we kind of saw that in the second movie with another character. We didn't really mention him that much, but he was like just this character stuck on a wall. And that's kind of what just happens to people, I guess, when they're on the ship.
Whole person.
Yeah, they just kind of like mesh into the ship, which is weird, but
I don't know, maybe that's how they do repairs.
yeah, maybe that's how they do it. It's kind of...
It's just people.
Personally, I think it's really sad, because this man is just sitting there just like not doing anything, just dwindling away.
Yeah, well...
Since we brought up Bootstrap Bill, I might as well just bring up Will, and his kind of arc in this is to save his dad, which in the end he does save his dad, which is cool, and we'll kind of get into a little bit more of that later on. And he's also, with trying to save his dad, that comes with the, I guess the duty of killing Davy Jones, and with that he would then have to leave Elizabeth and man the the Flying Dutchman.
The Flying Dutchman.
So he has like a really big dilemma of what he has to do, but in the end I think he picks the best decision, if not indirectly.
Can I just mention something that kind of confuses me that has like a little bit to do with Pirates of the Caribbean?
Sure.
So in SpongeBob, the character is the Flying Dutchman. And he still sends people to Davy Jones' locker. In this, the ship's the Flying Dutchman, and he's Davy Jones. And he has a locker. So I'm just confused, like, what it originally started as.
I wish
Who is more accurate? Pirates of the Caribbean or SpongeBob?
Man, I wish I had a straight answer for you. I'm gonna go with SpongeBob. Man, you see that dude with his sock? Can't get over it.
Motherfucker put a sock on his tail. Unlike what I said in the previous review, Elizabeth seems to kind of have confused feelings again. Throughout this movie, again, it's like she's questioning who she wants to go with, but in the end, she actually does choose Will Turner this time and gets married to him, which is kind of a cool scene, which is, they ask Barbossa to marry them, which it happens in the middle of a huge fight, which was, I don't know, definitely not the right time, but if you don't know if you're going to have any other time,
Right.
it's the only time you'd have.
And it definitely also added a different spin to the fight as well.
Also, I just want to mention, Captain Barbossa, I feel like whenever he yells to the pirates, I have no clue what he says.
Never once gave up that way he took. I, Il de Muerte, remember?
One of my favorite character moments, I guess, is when Jack Sparrow was caught up in Davy Jones' cell, and there was like the 3 other versions of him, and then one of them was just like crusted into the ship, and then like homie pulls out his brain and licks it.
Which I feel like is kind of weird, because how would he know about people crusting into the ship? It's not like he's been on the ship or been there for very long, or even seen Bill Turner crusted into the ship. So
Yeah, no. He's just like, yep, this is how it happens.
So, for the plot in this movie, it's kind of a lot to go over. But our main crew who we've been following throughout the 3 movies, they have to rescue Jack from Davy Jones' locker. And after that, Davy Jones and Lord Cutler Beckett, they kind of form an alliance to make Lord Cutler Beckett take over the seas and wipe out the last of the pirates. Dude, I feel like you put in a lot of detail to this.
What the fuck do you mean?
Calypso, Davy Jones' damned lover.
That's the plot synopsis, dude. You're like, holy fuck, dude. This is like almost. There's so much proper grammar.
This is like good, dude. Now the main crew and Tiadama, who you later find out is Calypso, who is also Davy Jones's lover, who also trapped him in his weird fishy body. That's kind of the reason why he's like that.
Holy fucking shit, man.
Right?
So they were lovers before she got trapped?
I think so, because he trapped her.
Bro, that's like an Ant-Man situation.
See,
I think it's just best not to think about
but it's also like, you know, Donkey and the Dragon made it work.
Just get through it, man. Like, we went on a whole side rant and then jumped back in.
Pirate crew, yes, we did. But don't talk about that. The main pirate crew and Tiadama, they end up forming the meeting, and they all end up deciding after making Elizabeth the king of all the pirates to release Calypso from her human body, which they trapped her in however many years ago in the first pirate meeting. They all decide to fight against the East India Trading Company, which I don't think we mentioned yet.
That's Lord Beckett, though,
Yeah,
pretty
that's
much.
Lord Cutler Beckett.
So, as you can see, quite a lot happens in this movie, and to me, it just comes off as being really convoluted, and I feel for no reason.
I feel like they just had too much to pay off from what they set up in the second movie. And that's what kind of made this movie 3 hours long.
Yeah, it's a bit ridiculous. In the end, everything does kind of get paid off, so in that regard, good on them. I couldn't find anything that could like be cut out, honestly, on like first watch. One thing just with the plot, I thought the way they opened this movie was freaking insane. Just so many people were going on the gallows and just being hung. Just like, what an opener to a movie.
And then they start singing.
Like, this is a kid's movie, and this is so sad and messed up.
You have to imagine what it started with. It gets considerably darker as the series goes on.
And there are still jokes in this movie. Like, we've laughed plenty of times throughout this movie as well, so...
My favorite scene would probably be they're all kind of surrounding the island and you see them all walking and it's the really long, over-drawn out shot, and then you just see them kind of pan to Davy Jones in a bucket. It kind of makes me laugh because, like, did they carry him there? But no, they didn't. You can kind of see in the background there's buckets leading up. So he jumped from bucket to bucket to bucket to get up there. Or that's what I can deduce from the situation, at least.
It definitely kind of ruins the scary facade of him once you see him in that bucket.
Yeah, it definitely ruins the later scene where he, like, hisses and all the tentacles come out at Jack.
I like how Jack in that scene takes a second to be scared. The first thing I wanted to cover is the music in this. Thought was more prominent in this one than the second movie. We were talking about it. Nothing really beats how they scored the first movie. They just had, like, the beats were just on point, and I feel like they were trying to match those beats in the next movies, and that's what kind of tripped them up, which I'm not docking Hans Zimmer for this, but, you know, it's just something.
Alright, I don't know if I'm crazy in this, but I feel like the more kind of drawn out and like more focused on scenes in the first movie were like sword fights.
Yeah, definitely.
And the more drawn out and focused on parts in this is all the cannon fire in that. And I don't know if that kind of switches it up a little bit, but it feels like it changes it a little bit.
You know what? I definitely feel that. I mean, at least with like sword fights, I don't know, I kind of dig the sword fight ideas more than like, two ships fighting each other. There's more people involved, and when it's not when you add more people, then it's kind of hard to start like
It's hard to focus.
Yeah, it's hard to focus on all of them all at once.
Yeah.
The CGI in this, I still think looks pretty good. Davy Jones, I thought still looked really good in this.
If not better. I feel like the rest of the crew looks a lot better.
Oh,
in this.
yeah.
Especially Bill Turner. He looks phenomenal in this one. I feel like the makeup was just stepped up quite a bit with like all the.
Yeah.
Well, it might be the CGI was.
No, they used
brought up on
they
him.
used a lot of practical effects on him, and I think that's why Bootstrap looked so good.
Why is he the only person with like a real human face still?
I feel like it
He
was
just got a starfish.
I feel like it was Stalin Skarsgård just being like, no,
I'm not putting on a fish.
No CGI for me.
No fish.
Next thing I wanted to mention was I thought the set designs in this were really good, and it really made me just respect when movies, take the extra mile to make really cool sets. Like, it's really sad when a movie's just all green screen and, it's just these fake environments behind them. And one of the coolest shots that I saw was when they were sailing through the water at night and the stars were reflecting in it, and it made it look like they were just cruising through the fucking stars in space, and it made it so fucking cool. Just wanted to bring this up. The climax of this movie is fucking grandiose. As we kind of we already started talking about it before. It was the East India Trading Company versus all of the pirates.
30 or like probably more than 30 ships, probably hundreds of ships.
Yeah.
Versus like maybe 30 ships.
As well as the East India Trading Company had Davy Jones and the Flying Dutchman on their side. So that kind of gave them the edge a little bit. There's so much happening, and it's almost too long that it's hard to focus on one thing, but they do kind of they do focus in towards the end of it on what is really important, which is Jack, Elizabeth, Davy Jones, and their kind of confrontation that happens there.
I feel like I found a part that I think could have been cut out.
What do you think?
All of Calypso.
Oh my god, yes. Alright, listen.
Alright, they can have her revive Barbossa and go get Jack. But just stop her at being a witch. She doesn't need to be a god.
Yeah. That was complete. Like, I feel like that was something that, like, maybe was, like, put in the trailers to, like, hype up the movie. Because they really did nothing with her. Like, she didn't really do anything. Oh, the only thing she did was make it rain. They should have done more there, or they should have just freaking cut it out. Would have saved how many minutes of screen time?
Save probably a quarter of it.
A good 25 cut out. Yeah, because that's also part of the climax. Like that's how the beginning of the climax starts. Just cut that out. Just have it start raining randomly. Like that just happens.
Yeah. And we'll just throw in a couple funny clips that we saw throughout the movie in this right here.
Piracy, where bold captains sail free waters, where waves aren't measured in feet. Pass the test, become a legend.
Who was the first court what imprisoned Calypso? We shall be the ones to set her free, and in her gratitude she will see fit to grant us boons.
Whose boons? Your boons?
But without you, Jackie.
Stab of the heart.
So one thing that I noticed throughout this was there was a crap load of people just dying everywhere in this movie.
A lot of death in this movie.
Not a lot of blood, but a shit ton of death. And another thing that just caught my eye, honestly, was... So when they're going to rescue Jack Sparrow, they have to travel through... I don't know, Antarctica, some place where it's really cold. They start traveling through like this ice crevice. And I swear to God, man. It looks like an ice vagina, man. It's just like this giant peak, dude. And I don't know if they planned on that, but man, it is super noticeable.
I think you're just crazy.
Listen, if I saw it, someone else saw it too, man.
I'm sure like there's a good 7 other people who saw it.
Listen.
But none of them have YouTube review series.
Yeah? What are we called here, man? We're called Raunchy Reviews. We're gonna be raunchy, man.
You got me. You got me there.
So the last thing I want to mention is that there was a really nice scene between Davy Jones and Calypso where we actually get to see Davy Jones in human form, and just watching the actor like do all that is so cool because he clearly hasn't felt this in a while, and you can
like
feel
it's weird
that.
that he sounds different though.
It is a little bit weird, but I mean, he also has tentacle.
You think they got a different
vocal
actor?
cords. They might have, honestly.
This one probably has the most happy ending because you see them. Will and Elizabeth are finally married, and they get to spend Will's one day every 10 years that he gets together. So that's cool. And then you also see Captain Barbossa gets what he wants, which is Jack's ship. And then Mr. Gibbs gets 2 girls, so that's a good happy ending for him. Jack also stole the map from Barbossa, so that's his happy ending. So it's happy endings for everyone, although his ship now isn't the best suited for, I wouldn't say it's the best suited for the ocean, considering it's a dinghy.
Minor. You work with what you got, you know?
Yeah.
So do you think this was like a good ending to the series then?
Yeah, I think this probably would have been a better ending to the series. I mean, it is kind of cool to see where it goes, because in the 2 other movies that came out, right? Yeah, there's 5 of them. He does get to go to the Fountain of Youth.
Avast, I have some golden doubloons.
Doubloons?
Of facts for you.
Doubloons?
Doubloons.
Like flowers?
No. Man, it's pirate talk for like gold.
Doubloons. Doubloons.
Oh. So the green flash that they talk about in the movie is an actual real optical phenomenon, and it's caused by a reflection of light in the atmosphere amplified by the mirage. So I thought that was really cool, that
cool.
They actually used a real phenomenon for that. And some of the scenes for this movie was actually filmed in the second movie, Dead Man's Chest, so that they didn't need to return to those sets or rebuild them, so that they already had that footage. So they were actually they probably wrote these 2 scripts together.
I would assume so.
Knowing that they were going to do that.
Yeah, I would assume they had to, considering how much just build-up
The
first movie was for the second one.
Right.
And I feel like you could watch them pretty seamlessly, although it'd be like 6 hours.
Yeah, good luck doing it. And the scenes of Davy Jones's locker were shot in Utah, and the monochromatic, whatever that means, I don't fully know, was used to represent the antithesis from the usual colorful pirate environment. I don't fully know what that means.
I also don't know
but I thought it sounded really cool, so I had to let you know.
My final thoughts on this movie are, I wouldn't say it's as good as the first one. Again, that one's still got to be my favorite just because of nostalgia, and that one, I don't know. It's always, I feel like it's everyone's, or at least most people's favorites, and I don't know, definitely a lot more lighthearted than this one, and I'm kind of more for the lighthearted movies.
Alright, and my final thoughts of this movie is, I definitely thought this movie was super long. I felt like it didn't need to be this long.
Sure.
I still had fun with it, for the most part. This was one of my favorite movies growing up as a kid, or, well, it was the one I watched the most growing up, so in that regard, it kind of helped hold some nostalgic value to me. But I do see where you're coming from with it being the first one kind of being more lighthearted. I do kind of like the tone of that one, and I don't think they fully captured the magic in the second and third one that the first one did have. You know, fully looking over the trilogy as a whole. Yeah. But I do really think this was a great trilogy, so yeah, those are my final thoughts. So that is going to be it for this Raunchy review. If you guys like this video, remember to hit that like button, and remember, if you have any comments or any movies that you want us to review, please leave them down below, and we'll try and review those as quick as we can. And remember to hit that subscribe button, because that subscribe button will be waiting for everyone, and I think I'm out here. Well, we're out here. Deuces.
I don't know.
Yeah, he's a good
I saw
character.
that and I smiled. Or I heard that and I smiled today.
For sure.
Well, don't put that part in. Don't put that part in. Cut that out.
Alright.